3, 2, 1. Okay.
You can do it. You're so great at it.
Wow.
That was
I love
genuine.
Affirmations in the morning. Big fan of early morning affirmations.
Lots of people swear by it, Yeah.
On today's episode, we'll be talking about the 3 H's of fundamental Session 1 storytelling.
And for the prompt of today, we will put it to the test immediately by not knowing what Session 1 notes are in a made-up game.
All of that and more on this episode of Your Rivers Are Wrong. Good morning, or evening, or afternoon, whenever you may be. Welcome back to the Your Rivers Are Wrong podcast, Season 7.
Hey!
I'm one of your hosts. My name is Dante.
And I'm one of your other hosts. Well, the only other host. My name is Marilyn. There's no other people here.
And we're here as we are every week to talk about the wonderful whimsies of world building, the arts and aesthetics of setting up a setting, and telling stories born from it.
That's right.
We're back at it. After
Stretch those muscles.
A little bit of a break. We are kicking back into this. This episode is going to drop at the top of 2024, but we're recording it just a little bit before Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's a thing. I keep forgetting.
I keep forgetting.
I'm not American.
You guys have... we should be really good at this point, but top of the season, we always got to introduce ourselves.
We totally are not.
If anyone jumping in on episode 71 for whatever reason,
we don't blame you. No, please listen. Like, any listens are great.
Thank you for being here.
All listening,
we really appreciate it.
Is valid.
We love all listening here.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Dante. I'm mostly just a content creator. I publish stuff on YouTube. I edit a lot of videos, and golly, I'm forgetting what I usually do. And we also do this podcast. I come from a background of editing casually as a hobby for like 15 something years. It's been a good long time.
Wow.
And I also play a whole lot of tabletop games. I've logged, I think I did the math once. I've logged playing and running in total, somewhere in the ballpark of like 1,000 games in the last 5 years.
Wait, like sessions or kinds
sessions
of games? Okay.
No,
oh my
sessions.
God.
No,
that's
1,000
ridiculous.
games one day. 1,000 different unique games. Yeah,
I don't know.
One day.
I mean, you're well on the way with your last series.
That average, by the math, that averages to around a game every other day, a little bit over every other day.
Wow.
So I'm not. It's not.
I guess you have a hobby,
fact.
huh? And we love you for it. It's great.
Thanks so much. Also, I live in New York on the west side of the Atlantic Ocean. So I'll bounce it over to my co-host.
Yeah, I don't live there. I live on the east side of the Atlantic Ocean, which is Europe. I'm from Holland. Hello. My name is Merle. I do a bunch of things. I never know what to say in this stuff. Like, I feel like we did this before, and then I always say something different.
Say stuff and I'll fill in the blanks.
I illustrate. I graphic design. That's a verb. I work as a, I guess, programmer. That's kind of weird to translate in English, but I work at a literature festival. I do a bunch of stuff about like spoken word and organizing festivals. And I do things related to artistic research. And I love art. It's kind of what it boils down to. Hey, and we're also doing this podcast for like a very long time by now. I think that's pretty good.
We're closing in on 2 years.
Holy shit.
On 2 years.
That's wild.
You also miss that you're like a very good singer and a very good theater.
Oh, yeah.
performer,
I also did that. Yeah.
Which is like a massive thing that was...
I mean, yeah.
All of season 6, we were leading up to you doing this amazing theater play.
Yeah, I'm a theater nerd. It's true. Yeah.
Anyway, let's... we got to refocus.
So smooth. Yeah.
We're so
great
good
at
this after 70 episodes. And this is the point where I pull up my notes and figure out what the heck we're talking about today.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So many things to touch on before we start this episode, just to clean up what's been happening in the last month and a half. First and foremost, big old milestone is not happening today, but hopefully by next week, we are so close to 10,000 listens.
Oh my God.
10,000 listens.
That's so good.
These listens are only recorded by the podcast platforms if you listen to a minute or more. So 10,000 minutes worth of listeners for this podcast minimum is wild to me.
Yeah,
but we're not there yet.
Holy shit.
We're at 9,974 listeners.
Oh, God.
So you could be the
Wow.
10,000th listener. And if you are, we thank you. If you're not, we still thank you.
Do we know who that is? No, that's probably like a privacy thing.
There's
Like, can
no
we
way
send
to
you a
know.
chocolate bar? I don't know. No, that's going to be very
Unless I progressively post the number on Twitter until we
Also,
get
what
to
if someone just
10,000?
accidentally clicks on it and their sound turned off and then suddenly they're a 10K listener? That would be like epic, though.
I mean, if they listened for a minute.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, worth it.
What else?
Amazing.
We also, which I have to highlight because this is our first like little bit of, I guess he called it fan art. So we'll call it fan art. I got to bring up our listener, Thomas, formerly known as Doug, because we brought him up as Doug in a couple episodes in the past.
The one and only Doug.
Yeah, he often sends in prompts for us to do on the fan prompts days.
Yes.
But over the break,
Which is great.
he randomly emailed us out of the blue and said, "Hey, remember that prompt you did in episode 61?" By the way, I didn't remember what prompt you did in episode 61.
I never remember what we talked about after.
What a wild thing to say.
Yeah.
He says, "Well, the idea for a game that you came up with, I turned into a game."
Oh, my God.
He made a game called Birthday Workday.
Yeah,
which
that's
is based on the
just
prompt.
out of the... That's ridiculous and beautiful. And I love you for it, Doug. Thanks for this effort. What the hell?
It was a prompt that we riffed out of, just off the cuff, and he made a whole 2-page game on it. There's rules to it. There's prompts to it. It's wild. It's like a whole thing. And I just wanted to thank you because, golly, fan art for a podcast, really hard to get.
Yeah.
Really big milestone.
Let alone like some like freaking game design fan art. Like, who gets game design fan art? How cool is that? Oh my God. I'm so excited. I would love to also like just know more about how the session went and how crazy it going. But yeah, amazing. We love it.
Thank you so much. We also just got back copies of commissioned art for this podcast.
Oh,
which we
yeah.
commissioned,
That's right.
One of my favorite artists. I asked them for help on a lot of my YouTube channel's branding, and they've been helping me out for the last 3 years. Elbara.
So great. Yeah.
ELBARAA just did a whole lot of art for me and Merle to hopefully use in more of the visual stuff for this podcast.
Yeah, we're going to try some stuff out.
Yeah, you'll be seeing it pop up in videos, in whatever we post on Twitter. Do we post things on Twitter? Whenever we post, you'll see it. It's cool. We've never had art for this podcast before beyond what Merle herself provides. By the way, she's also like a very good artist. I don't know if you brought that up.
I don't know. I
It's
forgot.
just a whole series of talents. But look forward to like a whole lot of really cool visual stuff in the coming year.
Yeah, we're going to just try some new flavor to it, right?
Yeah, it's going to be so sick. Any updates from you before we jump into the podcast?
Ooh, I don't think so. Yeah, nothing like podcast specific, I think.
Yeah, anything in life in general?
I mean,
Major milestones.
as soon as I said that, I'm like, I don't know if I have any other like non-podcast updates.
Hey, listen,
anyway.
it's okay to not have updates.
Yeah.
That's actually a really good sign
Probably
in
good
this very
sign.
busy
Yeah,
world.
that's true. That's true. Let's start this season like clean, clean slate.
Wait, Merla, you're telling me you used a break to take a break? That's actually insane.
Well,
You let yourself rest on the weeks we had off?
I mean, kind of, but not really. I did do Rocktober. Did we talk about this? Yeah, we did talk about this.
You started it at the end of the podcast.
Oh yeah, did we end in October?
You started at the end of the
I
season.
don't know
Yes, we
timelines. I'm so bad at this.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you
Well, I finished
you
October.
concluded
That's, I guess, an
Rocktober.
update. Yeah. Which is great. Anything else? No, like the rest has been pretty like consistent, which is good, which is a great thing for me. I'm very bad at consistency. Calling it now.
I mean, if you're speaking consistency, for the record, anyone listening, Rocktober is a month where you post.
Oh, yeah.
You write and post and record a new song every day for all of October.
Yeah, it's like songwriting challenge. Aside from all the other challenges happening in October, Rocktober is one of them. It's great. Also, I don't know how I managed to complete that because in talking about consistency, like that's 31 days, 30 days,
31 days.
31 days
31
of like handing in something. It can be shit, which it was at times, rightfully so. Yeah, but that was pretty good.
Yeah, just a casual thing to do. 31 unique songs invented in October.
I don't know.
Sure.
I don't know what to tell you. How about you? Actually, we collaborated on one of them, which was great. It's one of my favorites. It was beautiful.
Yeah, I got to record some piano and drums for the first time in a long time.
Yeah.
I had to figure out my setup.
stretched
I'm just
those
like, how do I
music
do this again?
muscles. Anything cool from your side? Well, you built your computer, by the way.
Yes.
We just talked about this. Amazing.
This is the first episode recorded on my new setup, which is no longer just a laptop. It is a proper desktop. I had to rewire everything, which took like many weeks. And I'm just very glad that my voice is being recorded right now because it has been a stressful time just making sure everything works as it used to. Not even like to improve.
Just getting
yet.
back to the baseline. It's already a challenge. Yeah, but so cool. Such a cool project. I can't believe you did that.
Mm-hmm,
I wouldn't even know where to start.
Computers is really hard.
Yeah, it sounds like it's really hard. Yeah, but you did it somehow.
Yeah, somewhere in the ballpark of 12 to 20 hours of like
God.
manic learning
Frenzy.
and fixing and troubleshooting.
But it's also great, right? Isn't it so that the best part is that you can really like be nitpicky about every part that you combine with each other? Like you can make like an ultra custom one. Yeah, that's so great.
Yeah, because I mean, I got big dreams for what I want to do, right? So I'm like, I need a computer that can match those big dreams.
Hey yo.
So okay, we should talk about world building and storytelling because that's what we're here for.
Yeah,
you ready to jump into it?
I'm so ready.
Okay. Every week, if you don't remember the format, let me just quickly remind you. One of us is the quote unquote host for the day, and we bring the topic prompt that we'll be discussing relating to world building and storytelling. The other person doesn't know the topic of the episode before we record. And we end every episode with an improvisational prompt, sometimes relating to the topic, sometimes not. And the other person has to kind of riff some sort of story off the cuff. And that's
somehow
kind of
tie it back together.
Somehow, some way.
Yeah, that's right.
So today's topic is one I'm surprised we haven't covered, but we've probably touched upon occasionally throughout other episodes. Today, I want to talk about Session 1.
Oh.
I want to talk about Session 1.
Oh, okay.
And I know when I say this, there's terminology that I'm going to be saying that might not be familiar with people who are just here for the world building or just here for the literary stuff. So let's start with a couple of definitions.
Yeah, we'll just explain as we go, right?
Yeah. So Session 1 is in the context of people playing a tabletop RPG. And a tabletop RPG, as we've explained a couple of times, it's an extended game of collaborative storytelling.
Yeah.
And it's improvised by the people who are sitting around a table, and it usually taps into a set of rules to both add structure to the game as well as random chance as we progress with the story. So Dungeons and Dragons would be an example of a tabletop RPG. It set forth a set of rules just to make sure that everybody's on the same page on how we rule on things that we want to leave the chance.
Yeah.
And Session 1 is a term referring to the first time everyone sits down with their characters ready to play and adventure into this world. Sessions are usually sequential. You sometimes have them every week if you're lucky.
Yeah, it's kind of like an episode, like game night.
Like an episode.
Yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, we also already covered previously a Session 0, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Session 0. Session 0, just for context, is people meeting up before the game, just making sure everybody's on the same page as to what kind of game they want to play, what kind of topics are off limits to talk about, and, what their expectations are for what you guys are about to embark on, which should hopefully be a very long adventure.
Yeah.
So this session will be focused on the person sitting in the game master's chair. The game master is the person in charge of facilitating the story structure, the general themes and premises of the game, and they're kind of in control of not only story flow, but the setting, the surroundings, the landscapes, and the characters,
the world,
not run by the other players. They're kind of the world god incarnate, so to speak, in this little setting.
Yeah.
So Session 1 is very daunting for a game master. I have a friend who's going to run a game for us for the first time ever. He's been a player for a couple of years.
Oh, cool.
And I'm going through, like, how do I help him? How do I help him understand what to do and what to prep before we actually start? And, we're walking through Session 0. We're walking through character creation.
Is he planning on doing, like, a full campaign kind of thing? Or is he just, like, trying it out for just shits and giggles?
It's really funny because originally he pitched it that he just wants to try running a game.
Oh, but now he's really invested.
And then as like I'm building a character, he's like, oh, no, I actually had this in mind, a campaign. And I'm like, oh, okay, sure, let's do this.
Okay, let's go.
I can help with that. No problem.
Very nice. We love it. Amazing.
So it's been on my mind, like, how do I help somebody get through this process? Because I remember the mistakes I made the first couple times and the things I've learned since then. And I'm like, how do you even get into that mindset to start? So I do have a couple of things that I feel are crucial to running a session 1 and what I feel is most important depending on the people at your table. I do want to toss it to you, though. Do you have anything in particular that you feel is like a necessary thing for a session 1? And it could just be broad ideas or it could be something very specific.
Ooh. Game master related or anything?
If you want to speak from behalf of like a player's perspective, what do you kind of expect to happen in the first session? Like, I do have things I do want to speak about, but I would love to hear where you're coming from first.
So for me, but I feel like I'm biased because I just love character design or, character studies so much. So for me, it's always about sort of how a character gets embedded, specifically in session 1, right? It's the flag that starts the race. For me, session 1 is feeling embedded in the world or starting to feel, right? And meeting each other on like character level. And I think that's also very practical, just like you have to start somewhere and it's very usually like how you get the party together, right? Like if I'm playing in your group, right? And my character starts off and my friend's character starts off in the same place. It's really the dynamic of relationship that you need to figure out as well. Like it takes time to figure out how your characters relate versus how you as players or you as a game group relate to each other. And, not even talking about like how to keep that healthy and stuff, because I think that's a topic for another time. But I think there's a very beautiful thing about session 1 where everything is still kind of muddy, right? You don't really know where you're going. And sometimes you're meeting a character for the first time and you're being like, dang, I think I don't really like his character. I mean, I love the guy, but and all those sort of interesting dynamics start to happen. And I think that's what I love about a session 1. And secondly, so that's one thing I think is very important. So the facilitating of the meetup dynamic.
Right.
And then secondly, I would say something that, for instance, Matthew Mercer does really well in Critical Role, which is a sort of actual play live stream of a group of voice actors playing Dungeons and Dragons together. Just off the top of my head, the first example I can think of, but the sort of immersive warming up the group or warming up the world in parallel. So what he does, or what I think he's kind of famous for as well, is like sort of the way he describes things very immersively. And I think that's important in all sessions, but specifically in session 0, because you're really nailing down what this world feels like. Is this like foggy? Is this dreary? Is this like bubblegum cyberpunk, right? You can go literally all ways. And I think depending on the game you play and etc., you can figure out most of that in session 0 to make sure you're going to enjoy that feel. But in session 1, you really have to make it. You have to start feeling it. And I think description and sort of world setup and sort of getting a lay of the land, so to speak, is really important. So I think that would be 2 things that I would say are kind of the meat of session 1.
Right. The idea that everybody is kind of bringing their little like gremlin of a character into the session 1 and being like, I don't know if this character will play well with everybody.
Yeah, you
Can't
really
wait to
don't
find
know.
out. It's all conceptual until the very moment where it arrives at the table, right? You have all these little bits and pieces of a character, and you don't know if it's gonna work as like a living person until you finally like throw it in there and see what sticks.
Yeah,
everybody has all these ideas of what they want their character to be, but until you put pen to paper, until you actually like try, you don't know what you're gonna hold on to or what you like the most, and that's so fun in session 1. It's everybody feeling it out and making sure it all kind of sticks together.
Yeah, for sure.
From the game master's chair, I tried to condense what I aim to accomplish into a simple thought as possible. And it conveniently, very conveniently, ended up as 3 words, all starting with H. So I have the 3 H's of session 1. It's a little thing I invented in my dreary like 11 p.m. self. I'm just like, hey, wait. This is kind of catchy.
You're such a natural.
Wow, I'm such a professional. Wow. So I narrowed it down to these words: hook, heel, and highlight. Hook, heel, and highlight. And I want to start with them out of order because the first thing that's most important to me is highlight. Highlight is taking the characters that your friends have brought to the table and making sure that what is unique about them sticks out. So you hopefully before the campaign starts, hopefully sometime between session 0 and session 1, you've taken a look at the characters they've created and you personally try to pinpoint what's most important to emphasize, because you as the game master are the only one who knows what makes them contrast from the rest of the party.
The difference? Yeah, that's right.
Right. So if I have a whole party and only one of them's a dragonborn or only one of them's like this more animalistic creature, I'm going to discuss like the bestial features that people see as they walk through the door. You're going to hear the rumbling of steps, the heavy footfalls, like things that make them stick out. Maybe it's their armor. Maybe it's like an emblem that they're wearing. You team up with your friend to help pitch this character to the rest of the party. And highlight is accommodating your player and allowing them to kind of help you fill in the blanks. Because I find that the game master ideally has as much as, if not more, experience running the game than most other people, right? So you have the best insights into what is most important to highlight.
Yeah.
And you have like this unique purview and information that nobody else has to kind of make that happen. So that's your responsibility. You try to bring out what makes each character unique if your player has trouble emphasizing that on their own. But obviously, if they've played for a very long time, leave them be. They know what to do. It's just being able to distinguish the party from session 1 is one of my first real focuses.
Yeah, I think it's very important.
Okay. Second thing I have after highlight is, well, actually, what's really dumb is that like hook, heal, highlight sounds really cool, but
the order is wrong.
The order. It's not as cool if I do it in the proper order.
It was almost cool.
Anyway, the second thing is heal, and heal is HEEL.
Okay.
I know it from like wrestling, where there's a character that's specifically designed to antagonize. Someone plays the part of the villain on purpose, just to rile people up and get them energized about a certain goal or certain motive.
Right.
So what I've noticed in all the games that I've ever run, in terms of starting out at session 1, I realized that the easiest way to have a group of strangers on the same page is to invent somebody that pisses them all off at the same time.
Common enemy.
And it doesn't even have to be like the big bad. It doesn't have to be some evil king in the far distance. It could just be an annoying person in the room, right? It could just be some dude who comes over to their table and kicks the leg and makes their drinks fall over. Just somebody to immediately rile them up. I remember way back when I started my first session, all of them arrive in the tavern as they do in session 1. You just throw them in a tavern. It's raining outside. Give them a reason to be there. And then I had this soldier come up and be like, hey, you're all foreigners. Let me pick out exactly what I don't like about each of you. Right. And I just went down the list. Right. And by the end of it, they were like, hey, don't make fun of that guy.
We all hate this guy.
Yeah, I hate this guy. Do you hate this guy? Immediately give them some sort of common ground. And for me, with a heal, the easiest way to do that is just give them somebody that they can all hate together. You know, it speaks to a greater concept of spending session 1 finding the glue for the party. Why do these random strangers want to stick together? Why do they want to travel? Why do they want to fight together? What links them? And sometimes you can go into their backstory and hope that their relationships line up, or they have some past history with one person or another person, and that helps. But the big part of session 1 is answering the question, why don't they just go their separate ways afterwards? Right? Why aren't they just leaving in the direction that they came?
Sure.
And finding that glue is super duper important. In your experience, when you've played other games with other people, do you find it difficult to find that glue? Do you find it difficult to like figure out what links you to other people? Do you have like a thought process and like, okay, how do I latch myself onto this person or this person or this person?
Yeah, there's a lot merging here. I think one thing is you don't want to go, and again, I love characterizing in, theater in that way. Like some game groups really don't care that much about sort of immersion, but, for me, it's one of the main things why I love it. So for me, it makes sense to think about it. It's very easy and hard at the same time. Yeah. As a game group at the table or at the virtual table, you all know you're going to be there for the next session. You decided on this, You know that you made this character not for one session only, but in game, your character's knowledge is very different from your player's knowledge, which means that if your character doesn't like a person, they're not going to travel together. Why would they? Mm-hmm. That makes no sense. So I always find this quite difficult, depending on the group as well, because some groups are really like heavy into the role play, and then you can kind of figure out what clicks and what doesn't click. But if if those levels of immersion are also different, if I care about my character and be like, yeah, but that's kind of meta, like my character wouldn't do that probably because that feels weird. It's hard to sort of like find middle ground in the being meta about it or being non-meta about it. So that's pretty tricky, I think. Secondly, it's also something we talked about regarding session 0, where if you have sort of systems or preparations in place to sort of lay the foundation for this, for instance, in session 0, you could say, hey, what does your character know about player B's character that they promise not to tell or something? Or you can have sort of built-in relationships beforehand to be able to cement you already going into session 1. And I think that's a very great and creative tool to sort of figure that out. Like there's lots of different ways tabletop RPGs are doing that. Some have like questions, or some have like secrets that some characters share, or they have a sort of mechanic where it's like each character has to have some sort of relationship with someone else. And there's probably more creative ones out there that I can't think of right now.
Right.
But I really do love it because it sort of naturally allows you to not have to figure that out live if it doesn't work. Because if it doesn't work, it's going to just feel a bit wonky. And then you really have to sort of kind of smooth it out over the next sessions, because it just feels like it's kind of not how the story logically should go, right?
Right.
So I do really love when game design has it sort of built in place already. And alternatively, I think there's also a lot to say about just sort of thinking about the characters beforehand and being like, for instance, in this niche kind of famous example of, ooh, well, my parents are dead and I'm just traveling because I have nowhere else to go, right? Like if you make it easy, like that's very much the cliche version of it, but if you make it easy for your character to have not a lot of attachments yet, or if they just came out of a situation running, right? It's an easy sort of anything that's within reach. For instance, a bunch of strangers that maybe need each other for safety traveling on the road, blah, blah, blah. It's an easy saying yes, right? So you can also think of it in terms of how you design your character or what just happened before in their mind or in their life or whatever. So I guess there's different ways to make it easier, but it really depends on the game you're playing. Depends on the group, and also depends on, do you want to leave this all up to this one session 1 moment of chance, right? Which is exciting in its own way. Or do you want to sort of ease into it or have some sort of color to it before you even start session 1? And both are interesting, but it really depends. Yeah.
At the end of the day, tabletop games are still just social gatherings, right? And you know how hard it is to walk into a room where you don't know anybody? It's like impossible.
It's the worst.
I'm not going to walk up to nobody. I'm going to do exactly what my character does. Is sit in the back corner and talk to nobody and then leave when I'm done, right?
Pretend like I belong. Yeah.
I think the only homework I really give players on session 1 is find a reason to stay with the group. That's the only thing they got to really focus on once you're in, right? Introduce your character and find a reason to stay. And I preface before every game, I say, if you're playing a lone wolf, that's cool. But if you're not going to join the party, then bring a new character next game, right? Like, there's no point in having somebody who refuses to cooperate.
Yeah.
And just giving them somebody to lean on, giving them that one other person they could turn to and have a conversation with if they know no one else is exactly how it works out in real life. You really want to have just that one friend you can be like, hey, I know you from, I don't know what, geometry class? Hey, do you want how
the
bad
famous
is this
backstory
party, right?
of geography buddies? Yeah.
It's good to have somebody you can rely on. And it's way harder when you're just walking in cold turkey, knowing nobody. So,
yeah. And I think it will also fuel your story if, for instance, I see 2 other players having a relationship I don't understand yet. If I see a relationship 2 other characters are having, I being me as the character that I'm playing, it makes me intrigued about the other people. It makes me want to figure them out. And that's maybe already a reason to stay, right? So if you don't know everything, which is very much the case in session 1, because you're all like jumping in cold, basically, it's kind of like a jump start, a sort of catalyst, I guess, for storytelling and for starting to figure that out and for trying to find connection because you don't understand it, right? It's a sort of curiosity mechanic almost that also has like benefits for the thing of like sticking together and wanting to find out the other characters and etc. So I like that as well a lot about it.
Yeah. And saying the final H is not rolling off the tongue. It really isn't. I got to find some cool, snazzy way to pitch this.
The more you talk about this, the less the marketing seems to work out for you.
No, I did come up with it last night. You started so strong, I was bleary. I was working on something else.
You can't intro this as like the greatest invention you had and then like continually diminish
I think it's pretty great.
It's pretty great. Yeah. So stop talking down about it.
Okay. I got to tell you the third thing. Okay. Again. First thing was highlight, amplify their differences, show what's so special about them. The next thing was heal, give them a common enemy, common ground, give them reasons to stick together or cooperate. And the final word, which we all know, is hook. Give them a reason to come back to the table. It's all fine and dandy to bring all these characters together, to make all these cool, shiny, gleamy new characters, and put them on a table, let them talk and hang out. But if the session ends there, like, is this really an ongoing story? You have to give them some sort of onus for movement. The hook is what brings them to session 2. Maybe it's someone found lying in a field. Maybe it's some shadows that flicker outside. Shadows that flicker. Maybe it's some light that flicker outside in the windows. Maybe it's some weird visions that all of you collectively have.
Yeah.
The goal of a game master in the session 1, assuming there is a session 2, is to pique their interest enough that they want to see a story unfold. And maybe the characters that they're with, maybe the party that they're with are really cool people, but if you never get to see them in action, then you really have to kind of push that forward. Involved in the hook and kind of tapping into just good game mastering is spending session 1 acquainting them with the mechanics that make the game special. Right. In terms of D&D, it's ability checks, it's combat, right? It's these fantastical
monsters. It's rolling
monsters.
dice.
It's rolling dice. Yeah. Figure out what is the main appeal of the game that you've chosen and make sure that those things get a spotlight during the first session. Because, you know, just like all other games, if your players aren't into the system that you're playing, if you aren't there into the rule set that you guys have chosen, then maybe it's a good idea to pivot, right?
Yeah.
There's plenty of games out there and they're all really good at highlighting different things. Like, for example, Blades in the Dark is really good for like heist type games. There are diceless games that really hone in on the role play rather than the number crunching. And there are games that really have very, very dense combat mechanics. And if your players aren't into learning the math behind it, then maybe try something else.
Yeah.
The game that you're playing comes with an inherent hook. There is an appeal to choosing it. And not only are you responsible for making sure the story is moving forward, you're also making sure that that story coincides and cooperates well with the system you're choosing. And those together hopefully make a shiny, gleamy hook that your players want to grab onto and bring to the next session, and the next session, and the next session. While session 0 is making sure that everybody's on the same page, session 1 is when you officially begin to feel out, hey, does this party work well together? Does the story make sense? And is this the game that we want to play? Right? Those are all the things you got to figure out. And if you guys at the end of session 1 are like, hey, this isn't working, maybe we could try something else. That's totally normal. That's totally fine. And it's really good to figure that out at session 1 rather than have somebody complain about it session 10. So as a game master and somebody who's played well too much of these games, these are kind of the things that I wish people knew more about when starting the game or picking up the game and going on that adventure themselves. And that's it. That's what I got for the topic.
Amazing. I think as a final note, I was also thinking as you were talking, sometimes have the feeling like stuff like this can get quite confusing if you're not in the space, right? Like, of course, we've played a bunch of games by now, so we understand the idea of a session 1 or a 0, or, you know, even like just sitting at the table. Like it helps if you've done it more to know what we're talking about. But just as a final note to maybe make it a little bit more easy, or I guess maybe easier to visualize, I very often just think about this as a TV series where you're basically collaboratively all playing parts in the TV series that you all want to make, and you're also the writers because you're making it up on the spot. And what you want to do, I mean, basically, right? Like, it sounds a bit crazy, but it's kind of what it is. And what happens in TV writing or TV series in general is this sort of episodic nature of it, right? Like, you have a short arc, you have a medium arc, you have a long arc. How big the plans of your game master are, right? Like, how do you want to play for years, or do you just want to figure out some sort of storyline and then see wherever that ends up? Or do you just want to play one session, which is called a one shot? You know, it happens a lot as well. And there's different ways to go about thinking in your brain what steps, what beats you're taking in the story, right? Like, if it's an episodic thing, it's an arc of one session. Like, in one evening, you're going to get to the end of the mystery, right? If it's a longer arc, you're thinking of a season. So you're thinking of how will my character grow from the experiences that we have in maybe 10 sessions or something. And both in a sort of more umbrella-like way, the analogy of a TV series works well for me, but also in a literal way, which is what you just talked about, the hook, every TV series got a bunch of cliffhangers. It always ends on a high note. It always ends on a, I wish I could keep watching, because that's the whole idea of like binge watching, right? So you want to keep watching just before you finish the session. You want to keep being fed or, immersing yourself in the story. That's kind of the end feeling you want to end up with as a game master. So if that means, a sudden shocking reveal, or if it means, suddenly the whole place exploded, or, someone turns out that was lying, that wasn't lying, et cetera, those moments are really great to sort of, I guess, work towards near the end of a session and then end on a high note to make people really engage and really like, oh, we're making something cool here.
Right.
Yeah.
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 That's the one thing I still thought about that I felt like was useful sharing.
Cool. So as we begin to close this episode, how about we jump into the prompt?
Yeah.
For the episode. Cool.
Let's do it.
As we end every episode with a prompt, Marla has no idea what prompt it is. She just kind of improvised it on the spot. And this is an improvised prompt about improvising. So it should be a little bit fun.
Oh, no.
So we're going to do a little bit of a two-person situation.
Okay.
You'll be somebody running a game, and I'll be somebody playing for the first time. We'll be simulating a very short session one.
It's going to be so meta.
And your prompt is, you are trying to hide that you've lost all of your campaign prep seconds into starting the session.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, God. Okay. Yeah. I mean, okay. I feel like this is too much like real life sometimes. Where I'm like, I'm awake. Yeah, I'm ready for this meeting that I totally didn't forget about. I totally did all the work that you asked me to do yesterday. Yeah.
Okay. So with that, I'll kick it off. I walk in through the door, sit down at the table. I've got my really cool set of dice that I bought specifically for this campaign because I've never played a game before.
Amazing.
I have a little notebook of rules that I remembered that I looked over last night and I had trouble remembering. So I jotted it all down. And I have this little character sheet. It was like a little goblin fella right in the top corner. I picked out the art from Pinterest or something. And I'm like, I like this guy.
Yeah.
I like this guy.
He looks great. Amazing.
Cool.
Do you feel ready to play? Are we all here?
Oh gosh, I've been thinking about this.
I think everyone's kind of trickling in.
Everyone's here. Yeah. I'm the last one to come in. Sorry, I got the drinks. I ran over to. Do you have Stop and Shop over in?
Nope. No clue what that is.
I came to Stop and Shop, grabbed a couple of drinks,
sure,
put it down on the table. I'm so ready to play.
There's like pizza out and stuff. Yes. I will say, we got like a little like game screen setup going on, right? Like we're fictionalizing. Like, let's make this like a real cool game table. There's like dice everywhere. There's like, we have like actual, what's it called? Like those fancy classic wine glasses and stuff, like goblets.
Oh yes.
Is that a word?
Yeah. Chalices, goblets. Yeah, let's use cool words.
We got like real fireplaces and stuff. Yeah.
Let's talk real fantasy. We have a properly sized living room.
Yeah.
And we have decent lighting. And
I have like a separate table for gaming because I have that space.
You have a separate table for gaming because you have all that space.
Yes.
Real fantasy
that
energy.
I totally didn't pay extra rent money for because I got a really good deal.
Oh my gosh. You actually got grandfathered into a system that your family had decades ago.
Yes.
Stellar.
Yes,
I love it.
That's right. We got like mood lighting going on. I'm turning off the music, turning on the music, not turning off the music.
turning it off just to see if the button works.
I didn't say it. No.
Turning it back on.
Yeah. We're just like clicking through the neon. Yeah. Putting like good lights, putting good music. And I will say, okay, are we all ready? Looking everyone in the eye. And the moment I open my Notion, I guess, sure. Because that's, we love some modernization in this product placement. Well, I mean, Notion's great. Like, you should all go.
Notion is great. And it's free. So.
Yeah. As I open my Notion files that I furiously prepped for this, like I wanted to do it real well because this is a session one, right? Like, got to start off strong. I'm thinking, okay, we're going to the city today. We're going to see some, I don't know, I forgot the monsters, but I'll figure it out as I scroll down.
Professional.
Yeah, super professional. And as I open up, I realize it's updating for at least an hour.
No.
And I'm like, okay, I can do two things here. Just starting like a little bit of a like tiny bead of sweat on my brow. And I'm saying, welcome, everybody. I hope you're all as excited and as prepped as I am
Oh boy, so excited and so prepped.
Yes, both of those things are true. And we start off this world in a city that I know about. I definitely...
Yeah, I read all of the setting notes that you sent me.
Oh, you read all of the session notes.
I'm so excited. Yeah.
What, okay. Yeah, let's spice it up. I think I've done so many games. We've done the classic intro, right?
I set myself up.
Yeah, you definitely did. Why don't you please describe your character, little goblin friend? Tell us how you traverse this city space that you live in.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And
yeah,
please
sure.
name the city and other relevant info you might remember.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And just make sure, just confirm that you're.
Yeah, because you're definitely a resident here, right? So don't worry if you forget something, but anything will add to the realism here.
Yeah, we've totally talked about this in depth.
Yeah, we totally did. Yeah, I asked you all to be like really prepared.
Okay, my character, he's a goblin. His name's Plinko Glinko.
Amazing.
He's really, he's been in the city of Ublek Shattarak for about 2.5 years now. But he grew up in the neighboring town called Pixel Skittlewitch, and he actually comes over as a carpenter, and he makes his own like ionized fire. And he's been using that. I saw that cool in the reference notes. Like
yeah. I was the owner of that idea. Totally. Yeah.
Until he met like the headmaster of the Academy of Ublek Shattarak, who was Magistrate Dumblebumble, and he really came into a school of learning, and he's really excited to arrive at this tavern. Oh gosh, I forgot the name of this DM. I'm so sorry. I really tried to prep for this.
Don't worry.
What's the tavern?
We don't need a tavern. We're gonna like go off the rails today. I think taverns have been kind of overused. So despite what I sent you, let's just meet in the street. Who needs drinks anyway? Yeah. I mean, hydration. Okay. What are we even talking about? Yeah. Not today. This is fantasy.
Sure. Yeah.
So I would say as you walk up the streets of this is so meta because now I have to remember what you said. I hate it. Pixel Glitch. That's totally the name of the neighborhood.
Oh, I must have misremembered. Yeah. Let me just fix that in my notes.
The pronunciation is very specific. I didn't put like the phonetics in there. But this is totally how it's
I learned that language that you invented for this campaign. Yeah,
but just said it wrong. Yeah, you need to practice harder.
Got it.
Pixel Glitch, the famously glitching mirror-like town of the city. Every surface reflects the lights of the city and of the flying vehicles above that you don't know the name of yet because you've never been in one. So there you go. You don't know the name. And you see a bunch of strangers as I look at the other players that are totally also part of this prompt. Collecting over a strange wanted poster on the side of this tavern that has no, signing to it. Because there's no name. The tavern has no name. Yes.
Oh, they don't name taverns in this city? Oh, I gotta add that to my notes.
No, this is like a mouth-to-mouth thing. Yeah, because it's really like only if you're a resident, you know where to go, right? It's like the sort of exclusive places. And this is definitely one of them. So you don't even know this is a tavern. This could be like a building of any kind, unless you've been here before, which could be, letting that up to you. And you see these strangers collected over... Well, collected? No, that's not how you describe humans. Gathered.
That's not how you describe humans.
I'm trying to English here. I'm doing great. Manifestation.
We're both secretly aliens trying to pass ourselves off.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Gathered over this wanted poster.
We totally don't collect humans. No. This is a normal podcast.
No.
A normal podcast.
Yeah. No weirdness going on here. And you see them looking over at you as you approach. I don't know how long you want me to go. Like, I could go forever.
No. I'm really excited to talk about this one thing. Oh, wait, I'm getting a call from my mom. Hi, Mom. No, I'm over at my friend's house. Oh, sorry. I need to help out my mom. It's going to be for...
Oh, shit.
Somewhere... I'm going to be out for like...
No worries, we can just reschedule. The game groups are famously good at scheduling games.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
So let's just do this like next week or wherever you can.
Oh, no, it's...
And I'll make sure to add the phonetics to the thing. So next time we can really... Because I don't really want to like improv the actual lore of this game, right?
I don't want to ruin... I could totally tell my mom to wait a bit. You know, we could get. I don't want to ruin.
Yeah,
session
you
one.
know,
I'm so
but
sorry.
you know, family time is really important. Like, you should help out your mom. Yeah, you should totally help out your mom.
Okay, thank you so much. Oh my gosh, this session
You're
was so fun.
welcome.
I really enjoyed
We started
it.
off strong, you know, like let's really tie this down next time when next time. When I know my shit. Beautiful. Amazing.
Great work.
Wow, that was weirdly metaphorical. I love how the meta like turned back to me like halfway through that. Like, now you can throw me shit again. Yeah. Oh well.
You're not going to catch me with my own prompt.
The good thing about D&D or any tabletop RPG is that like 90% is improv anyway. So I feel like even if you don't have notes, like, I think you're probably going to be fine. Let this not be like a bad moralizing lesson to anyone who forgot their notes. You're still going to be a great DM. Everyone done it.
Listen, you know those notes that you've been preparing for weeks and weeks and weeks? Sometimes the thing that your friend makes up at the table in like 2 seconds is just funnier.
Yeah, it's true.
It's just how it goes sometimes.
That's how it goes. Indeed.
And with that, let's wrap up this episode.
Yeah.
You can tune into any episode that we've posted here, literally in any order. Just look at the title, it'll have the subjects that we cover, and you can just, you know, pop between the ones that you like. And and just remember, as you continue to world build and storytell and tap into the infinite imagination of your minds, there is something that you must always remember that is a constant in every setting that you play, in every story that you write. It is the fact that your rivers are wrong.
Oh, yeah. That is right. We're still sticking to this joke. Bye.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Your Rivers Are Wrong. If you have ideas for topics, prompts, or you just want to share your thoughts, please reach us at yourriversarewrong@gmail.com. That's yourriversarewrong@gmail.com. Also, a big thanks to Maarten Schellekens, who created the intro and outro music for our podcast. And most importantly, thank you for listening. We hope to see you at the next one. Bye.